Now tell me, we've all had broken roads. There's not anybody here that hasn't been on the broken road, but how long did it take you to find the blessing, the gift? It was the broken road that certainly led me right here, because the broken road, when you finally make sense of it, when you finally understand that when we fail, we get fired, we have a financial crisis, a relationship falls apart, we lose something or someone we love. When we finally realize that there has to be some good in it. There has to be a health crisis. There has to be something. Because, if we have to get over some old thinking patterns that there is a vengeful God that's punishing us for making mistakes, well, how do we grow without mistakes? We grow. The more mistakes we make, we just want to make them better. It was Eleanor Roosevelt said, if we're not making mistakes, we're a lazy bum or something like that. Not quite like that, but we have to be working on that road of learning and growing and becoming. But it takes a while, because some of us were really in that consciousness, whether it's the collective consciousness or a teaching, that there's a vengeful God, that suffering is God ordained, that we're here to suffer. And our life is to be miserable until we get to heaven. But our teaching teaches a way different philosophy. We believe in a loving God. That God is love and love is God. Whatever name you call that, if you can't quite get to the word God yet, Spirit, the universal spirit, infinite intelligence, whatever you want to call that. But it's the God energy that is loving. And the only thing that God, the universe, wants for us is goodness. Because there is the law of good. But we have to get through that feeling, because so often when something bad happens, we go, it's you. You did this to me. Why did you create all of us, and then we have to suffer? Well, what we know and what we've learned throughout the years through this teaching is that pain is inevitable. We're on a journey of self-discovery, a journey of learning, a journey of experience. Pain is inevitable. It's suffering that is optional. If we hold on to that pain so tight and don't open it up and find the truth in there, because this journey of experience, oh my gosh, we learn from joy and beauty and awe and wonder and love. We learn from that. And we learn from pain and sorrow and hurt and upset and disappointment. Because we live a life that's full of experiences just for us to learn and grow, and as the song says, get closer to God and understand. Now, I asked you to think about a broken road you'd had and how quickly you got to the understanding. But I'm sure there's some steps in between. I know for me, in my times of the broken road, yes, oftentimes I have turned. Do I do it anymore? I'm not sure, but I used to turn to immediate blame. Something out there did it to me. Something out there, because that protects us. That's a little wall of protection we create. Something out there did it. And we blame God, we blame life, we blame people. We get in that habit. We build a wall of protection around us because we're blaming something else. And it's natural. Is there anybody here who has not blamed someone else? Thank you for being honest. Because we do that. The problem with blame is we get bitter. And I think you mentioned that, Michael, the thing that Martin Luther King Jr. said. We get bitter when we blame. That wall of protection gets us bitter, and bitter hardens. But I have some really good news. If you're a blamer, it's just because you're making the wrong choices. You're choosing blame over forgiveness. And forgiveness is a spiritual practice that you'll get to practice in Reverend Janet's class, because it's a practice that goes right along with prayer and meditation and understanding, where it's just we don't want to hold on to someone else's lack of knowledge or ignorance or whatever it was. We just want to open up. So blame is a choice. I just invite you, if you feel like you've been blaming, choose better. Is that easy? No. But try it. It feels better. It feels better and better. The harder part, yeah, we can have the finger at someone else, but when we take, now there's something between self-responsibility, which we all are called to take. We all have responsibility in things. But when responsibility turns into guilt, and then guilt turns into shame, that's one of the most painful, destructive emotions we can have. When we feel shame, it's not that we feel like we've made a mistake. We feel like we are a mistake. And there's not anyone who is a mistake. We're all part of this journey, this self-discovery. Now, some people just aren't waking up as fast. But we do what we do because of the tools we have. We do better when we know better. And that's why we need to practice waking up. We need to practice the spiritual tools that are going to open our heart. But before we get to that, our mind gets in the way. Before we can get to our heart, that divine heart, we got to get our mind straight. And our mind loves to think in pairs of opposites, right? Because that's how we make sense of things in this human world, and that's fine. We make sense of life in the pairs of opposites. We can say something is dark, or something is light, something is good, or something is bad. But when we live in the duality energy, that's when we get in trouble. Now, I've got some good thoughts on this. Rumi, we all know Rumi's poem, Out Between Wrongdoing and Right Doing. There is a field. There's a field. I'll meet you there when the soul lies down in that grass. Words, language, even phrases like each other don't make any sense. When we move beyond that consciousness of duality, we can embrace life in a much more beautiful way. Now, Rumi was a 13th century mystic, and he'd woken up. But way, way, way back in the ancient Hindu text, the Bhagavad Gita, when Arjuna, God, was speaking to Krishna, the soldier, he said, delusion arrives from duality. That's when we have our mind all messed up, when we're fighting with everything. Delusion arrives from duality. Those who have freed themselves from wrongdoing are firmly established in God, and they are no longer caught in the trap of delusions caught by the pair of opposites. How do we get there? Well, I'll tell you in a minute, but I have one more story. And this story I've told several times, but years ago, and it's been told many, many versions. In fact, this is a Chinese version, an ancient Chinese version, and I was reading Pema Chodron's book, Fail Again, Then Fail Better. She was talking about her life and her life through all her failures, where she went, oh no, she told this story in a little different way. It was the Tibetan version of the 18th and 19th century, she said. But this one is a little, hers was maybe yes, maybe no. This one is good luck, bad luck, who knows. There's a Chinese story of an old farmer who had an old horse for tilling his fields. One day, the horse escaped into the fields. And the neighbor came running over, and that neighbor knew how important the horse was to that Chinese farmer and said, oh, I'm so sorry. This is such bad luck. And the old wise farmer said, bad luck, good luck, who knows? And sure enough, in a few days, not only did the old horse come back, but he came back with a herd of horses. And again, the neighbor comes running over and goes, oh my gosh, this is such good luck. And you know what the old farmer said? Good luck, bad luck, who knows? Their young son decided he wanted to train and tame one of the wild stallions. Well, you can guess what happens here. He gets on the stallion, gets bucked off, breaks his arm. Again, the neighbor runs over. Oh, again, such bad luck. And again, the farmer says, bad luck, good luck. Who knows, right? Well, what happened? The army, a week later, the army marched into the village and conscripted every able-bodied young man. Well, guess what happened there? His son was no longer able-bodied, and they skipped right over him. Good luck, bad luck, I don't know, do you? And the same goes with us, because life is not a solid story. You and I put our opinions, our feelings, our thoughts together and build these solid stories. Have you ever told a story over and over again? It was so solid in you, and then all of a sudden woke up and realized, oh, that story doesn't have to be so solid. Wisdom is not solid. Wisdom is ever growing, ever expanding. Revelations happen to us where we wake up in the moment and realize, oh my gosh, there's so much more to this story that I can add. And we're in the business of waking up. Now, waking up, we need an open mind to get down to the divine heart. The divine heart, that's the place in us where our God lives, our divine spark, our peace of spirit lives in the divine heart. That's where it lives, and that's where we touch that. And this divine heart knows how to handle difficult emotions, disappointment, loss, jealousy. It doesn't mean the pain goes away. That's part of this process. But it means there's understanding. And we know, no matter what, God is there. That's what we know. When we touch that place within us, which comes through meditation, God speaks to us in that place in our heart through intuition, through knowing, through feelings. God speaks to us right there. When we touch that place, we can hear things, make sense of things. It's in that spiritual practice of moving down into the heart that we can truly feel and receive the answers. Let me ask you a couple of questions here, because I want you to take these questions and we're going to go into that divine heart and see what comes up so we can leave here with a new thought, a new revelation, a new feeling, a new connection. The question is, what happens when you or I'm going to ask you, what happens when you don't feel you can handle what's going on? We have many ways we can do that. We can either repress, close up, lock in, we can act out, or we can do our spiritual practices. We have a choice, because every moment is a new choice. We can practice, we can learn new ways of acting and not reacting to a situation. The next question, what are the stories I'm telling myself right now that keep me limited, that keep me small, that keep me blaming something or someone else, or keep me blaming myself? What stories is it time to let go of? And we all know that personally. What's mine now to let go of, to not be a part of? I need to reimagine that story and infuse it with spirit, understanding, and goodness. Where do I look for strength? And where do I place my trust? Some of the work we can do simply on our own. Some of this work, asking better questions or finding better answers, I should say, we can do ourselves in our own practice. Other times, I would say, we need classes. Reverend Janet, thank you. That is what we need. We need each other to help us reflect, remember, remind each other what's going on inside of us. We can go to a spiritual counselor, a practitioner, psychologist, a minister, whatever it is, to somebody, a special devoted friend that will be honest with you and knows the truth. You can go to someone else. Oftentimes we need someone else to reflect to us. We can only see in our limited personal view, and we need to bounce out of that so we can have a bigger awakening, recognition, revelation that happens to us right then. I'm going to just ask you right now to settle in just for just a minute. Just settle in. I do ask you to unwind yourself so you become an open vehicle, an open vessel, right here, right now. We sang the song this morning, I release and I let go. The Sufis twirl, dance, and spin. to let go of their attachment to this physical world in the pairs of opposites that we get so attached to. So if you imagine your mind just releasing either a washing machine that's spinning, releasing the things that are dirty, that no longer work, that need to be released, or we're just releasing the thoughts, the feelings, just in your mind. You don't have to move. You can just feel yourself letting go, making room, opening your heart, making this space for something more, releasing and letting go. Releasing, letting go. With gratitude and thankfulness. Thank you. I release you, I let you go. I no longer need that experience. I'm opening to something better. Because the broken road, right here and now, as we twirl and spin and let go, can shift our life to a whole new experience and make room for spirit, for God. As Rumi said in The Guest House when he wrote every human is a guest house of a multitude, a myriad of emotions. Each one comes to us and should be welcomed with joy because it may be clearing us out for something new. So just keep spinning and letting go. And then, as you let go, there's a consciousness that lifts and raises you to that place. The allness, the opening, the light, the place we call heaven, here on earth, the place where our humanness and our spirit meet as we're moving and twirling and becoming one with spirit, one with God, one with love. Just breathe in compassion for yourself and breathe out compassion for others. Breathe in the intention to know your own goodness and potential, and breathe out the understanding and wisdom to see the goodness and potential in others. And then just breathe in the intention right now to step into the next best version of yourself, lighter, wiser, in this moment, right here and right now. And as you're coming back, I'm going to close this part of our morning with another quote by my favorite 13th century mystic. He says, "Dance when you're broken open. Dance when you've torn the bandage off. Dance in the middle of fighting. Dance in your blood, and dance when you're perfectly free." I see this day as being a day for all of us to see as we walk through the doors today, not right this minute, but in just a minute, that we're stepping into a new day, a new experience, a new time. This is still a new year. How many times have you written 2022? Not too often, but it's a new year for us. We go out there, and I want you to meet it and greet it with expectancy of good, the willingness to let go and become, and the knowingness that right where you are, the fullness of God is, the fullness of love is, because that's who you are, I am, and we are. God bless you all. And so